heard from Kevin today.
I'm doing the week of Memorial Day. I'm taking that week off.
Is it IT day,
I'm gonna do
IT
something.
week?
Spring fever. And then I'm taking
It's 6 o'clock. I probably should get our
first
show
week of
on the
August.
road.
I'm
Okay.
taking a camp up in Enfield.
I'm gonna let everybody get
Do like
situated.
hiking, Lee trails.
Good. Pep talks. I like that.
Both.
Okay.
Some days I just want the four wheeler, and some days I want the side by side.
All right. Well, I'm gonna wait it because that's that. I knew that.
Oh, okay.
I wish I had a picture of this. Anyway. All right. We good? Jeff's traveling for business. Okay. All right. We're gonna do this. Good evening. This is Thursday, March 30th. Welcome to our finance budget meeting for Thursday, March 30th, 2023 at 6 p.m. I'm calling the meeting to order. Would you kindly join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right. Please note that School Board Member LaFortune is making an entrance, and School Board Member Richards is away for business. The rest of the school board is present for our meeting. And I believe Superintendent Ray, our first item is additional state subsidy memo, so take it away.
Okay, good evening. As I informed you via email and here in the memo tonight, on Tuesday at about 4:30 in the afternoon, the Department of Education released an updated ED 279. We had been looking at the subsidy that was out there at the state level, and there were some questions about that. And as the DOE dug into their computer system, they recognized a duplicate entry which inflated the mill rate. So the mill rate was set on the original 279 at 7.29 and has been dropped to 6.97. So the higher your valuation, the more subsidy you're going to get back because you have a different factor in. So that helped us pick up $887,000 more in state subsidy, which will be very valuable as we look at the $2.2 million increase to taxes that we had in the original budget draft. So it's a good day for us.
Okay. Item number 2 is the new ED 279.
It's just any questions about that?
Oh, yes, good question. School Board Member Truman.
No questions. I just want to say that this is really exciting news.
Any other questions for the superintendent? All right, so let's move on back to where I had rushed us to. We're at item number 2, new ED 279.
And this is just information. This just is the latest printout. We had included the other printouts in the budget report. And this just shows you with the increased subsidy on page 4, that now with the lower mill expectation, what happens is basically your required local that you're required to raise decreases in this formula, which increases your state subsidy. So it's a dollar for dollar on your mandatory local to state subsidy, and it's just more informational so that you have the latest copy.
All right, any further questions for Superintendent Ray on the new ED 279 calculations? All right, moving on to item 3, class size document with teacher ratios. Superintendent Ray?
So one of the things that we put forward is that we just wanted to have some information as we looked about some of our possible future reductions and or additions and looking at what our class sizes would be for next year. On the left-hand side is your current enrollments, and you can see that there's 104 teachers, And then if you look at projected enrollments for next year, we've added that up to 102 teachers. The reason there is 2 left is that we will be recommending for classrooms that we had a 1-year position that we funded out of ESSER this year. As the new neighbors came in, we had to make a decision in August, and we added one to first grade. That is a 1-year only position. I think that if we got into the same position next year, we know that the population may change over this summer. We don't necessarily know what we'll need or when we'll need it, but we do have available ESSER funds to add back a position in August if that is needed. The second piece is that you'll see in the recommendations is that typically in grade 6, we lose a few students in the transfer from Burns to SMS. And typically that is anywhere between 10 to 20 students their families make the choice to attend TAMS, which impacts our enrollment at SMS. We currently have 190 students, so we have figured in at least a 5 reduction, which I think is probably, maybe will be much more than that. But as we look at class sizes, by eliminating a classroom teacher that is unfilled right now, we would have the ability to add an art teacher at the middle school in that place, because currently we have 1 art teacher at the middle school for 600 students. And I think if you look in the area, we are very low for art at the middle school. Marie, Meg, and I have talked about that and looked at what would be the need there, and I think that's an area where our students deserve an opportunity to have more art education at the middle school level as they rotate through their UAs. So that is where we are class size-wise. As you can see, ratios are fairly solid throughout the district, a little higher in some places than we would like, especially 3 through 5, but we don't have another classroom at 3 through 5 unless we want to put people on a cart. And I'm not sure that that's what's best in those situations either. The current 5th grade classroom with 190 students has 9 classroom teachers. And so still going to 6th grade, we would be +1 in that scenario. So I think that looks like a fairly reasonable trade-off at this point.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray regarding the class size document with teacher ratios? School Board Member Gale?
So I guess just to clarify for me, so it sounds like even though there's going to be a reduction in the overall number of teachers, there's going to be an addition of a art teacher at the middle school for the 2023-2024
Yes,
school year if it's filled?
yes, that would be my recommendation to you guys.
Any further questions? All right, moving on to item number 4, recommended budget reductions. Superintendent Ray?
Okay, well, certainly after the great news on Tuesday night, this put us in a much better situation of what we would look at for overall impact to the local taxpayers. And there are some additions that we had to make through this budget based off information that came in after the first draft. And that starts at the top of the page, that the fuel bids were received by the city, which adds $35,000 to our budget. There's also an increase in insurance costs for cyber insurance to make sure that your data is protected, and that if, you've heard stories of people who, or organizations that will get locked down and people kind of steal their data and stuff, and that results in insurance claims. And that's a $15,000 increase, and that cost is split by the city and school because we fall under the same policy. We also noticed that we only had 5 buses in the state-approved list when we were approved for 6, so that's a $22,000 add. When you look at budget reductions of where we are now, there were some other things that we're able to do. One is that as we look through the coding in the budget, we can reallocate and move a position into Title I funds. We're getting some increased Title I funds as part of a change in the funding subsidy formula from the state, because now that the city of Saco is over 20,000 residents, you now fall under a different distribution model that brought us about $70,000 more, Meg, in Title I subsidy. And so we're able to move a position at Fairfield under Title I funding. No change in anything that it relates to, just different funding category. It has to be at Fairfield School because they are a Title I school, and the money has to be spent in that building. In looking at our tax rate and our capital improvements, I am recommending that we decrease $50,000 from capital improvements. That still leaves us over $500,000 to make sure that the roof at the middle school is replaced. When we look at the other good news that I emailed you on Tuesday, the max health insurance rate for school departments in the state will be 6%. Now, we could be lower than that, but at 6%, this allows us to cut $110,000 from planned health insurance increases in the budget. Workers' comp rates, when calculated in combination with the city, we were informed that we would be able to cut $43,000. I think that 25% of we were 25% of the figure, Jason? So it's a $43,000 change. When you look at the unfilled classroom position at SMS and converting that to an art teacher, that should be a savings of $21,971, just based off the average that we use for a new position versus the person who took a position elsewhere in the district. We had a teacher move from SMS to Burns School, so we looked at the salary of the person that was leaving Burns School versus our average rate for a new teacher in the district, and it's $21,000. And then we looked at legal costs, and we believe that we could decrease $5,000. So the recommendation would be to make a change of an additional reduction of $246,000. In this piece, we do not touch any current employee in the district. It gives us the ability to rehire the literacy specialist that we didn't fill at Young School and the special ed position at Fairfield School, so no change there. And we could post that, which would bring our overall expenditure increase in this budget to $1.83 million, or 3.84%.
Questions for Superintendent Ray regarding the recommended budget reductions? School Board Member Gale?
And so that 1.8, that doesn't include the 890,000 in extra?
Correct. We'll get to that piece on the next page.
Okay, all right.
This is strictly expenditure on this page.
Oh, gotcha, okay, yep.
Do we have any idea on what we would cut for that $50,000 capital improvements? Is there a project that we were looking at doing that now we wouldn't be doing?
No, I think that will wind up being the piece of the roof that we probably hold for another year based off that ventilation that goes in. But we're in pretty good shape this year to cover some other things, so I think that we're totally fine.
Any further questions?
Can you go over the adding one bus again real quick?
Yep. So we were approved for 6 bus leases, which means that what you have to do is the price of a lease over a 5-year period, you fund the first year plus 4 more after, and then the next year's budget, In next year's subsidy report, we would get the lease price that we paid back. We only had 5 in there by accident, and we needed to have 6.
All right. Any other questions? All right. Moving on to item number 5, revenue sheet, including recommended budget reduction.
Okay, so this sheet is based off everything that's on the page beforehand. We have not made any changes to any of the revenues from last time. Still operating with the main care at $400,000. I'd just rather be safe than over-anticipate that. And when you look at a 3.84% expenditure, then you take the $887,000 in increased subsidy that we received from the state, it now puts a $1.121 million increase to taxes, which would be 3.85% on the tax rate. And this is probably about as good as a scenario as we could have hoped for in a year where inflation and other costs are certainly through the roof.
Any questions for Superintendent Ray regarding the revenue sheet, including recommended budget reductions? School Board Member Gale.
Sorry, Jeremy. So where does the discrepancy in the EPS, you said it doesn't show up on this sheet?
It does, sorry. We didn't make any others, so if you look right at state share EPS,
Okay.
okay, and while it only shows $626,000 of an increase, that is because the 887 that we got more the other day, we were working in the negative of $260,000.
Got it. Okay.
Any other questions for Superintendent Ray? Last call for any other questions for Superintendent Ray. All right, I believe that is.
So
Oop, go ahead.
I think this is where you open up to say, is this something that we're comfortable at? Is this something we're not? We have a joint meeting with the city council on Monday night to talk about some of this new revenue that's come through. And I think it would be, appropriate to get an idea in their, on their plate or on their, forecast of where we may be as a school department and help them make the decisions that they need to make on the city side as well. It's a balancing act between both. And, boy, I think what we have here looks pretty decent if you're looking at a lot of other school department or municipal budgets at this time.
Superintendent, not superintendent, it's been a busy day. School Board Member Archie.
So I am not in favor of, increasing the taxes on our town. But I guess given the circumstances and inflation rates and price of fuel and how much everything is costing, I think that we're in a good position as we could have been. I would like to recommend that we submit these documents to the city council on Monday.
So are we looking for a formal motion?
No, we can't have I think
Okay.
we have to have a consensus here of what we're going to do on Monday, because at a school committee meeting, we need to adopt a formal budget, but I think that we can talk to them about what we're considering.
Okay. Any further comments? School Board Member Gale.
I guess just two quick things. So with the increase in the EPS allocation and the 250,000 in budget cuts, we've seen about $1 million swing in our budget since we presented it to the council, which
Yeah, about $1.1 million.
is pretty amazing there. And then the other item too, so the health insurance rate, could we see additional savings on that in the future as that gets firmed up?
So
Or is that
we were told
set?
that on April 7th,
Yeah,
we would get the final, so you could. Again, at 5.5, you may be looking at, you're now looking at, $12,000 or $13,000. I don't know that at this point you would want to take too much more of a savings on things, knowing that, again, we could have unanticipated costs based off, how many kids do move in to the hotel this summer. We have ARA funds that can cover some of that stuff, which I would recommend that we would use if we needed to add an additional classroom teacher like we did this year. I do think we'll know a little bit earlier in the summer, as it sounds like transitions. Meg, that was going to start around June. They were going to start making transitions.
They're rolling transitions now, so we're seeing some of those as folks find permanent housing.
We also probably will have a good idea as soon as, and unless it happened this afternoon, the budget is passed by the governor. There is funding for the next 2 years, so this may be extended more than just, right now they have funding until December 31st of this current year, and you may see further extension.
so could there be a possibility then, kind of halfway through the year, that we find, or we can piecemeal, for instance, the $50,000 on the capital improvements, that we can find that kind of between the couch cushions there and get the
I think you could.
roof?
Again, I think we're going to be in pretty decent shape on that stuff.
Okay, awesome, thank you.
Any other questions at this time for the superintendent? All right. Anything else we need to cover, Superintendent Ray?
Other than that, we'll be meeting with the council Monday night at 6:30.
All right. I guess we can entertain a motion to adjourn at this point.
So moved.
All right.
Second.
All right, I have a motion by School Board Member Truman, seconded by School Board Member Johnston. Roll call vote. School Board Member Archie?
Yes.
I, myself, School Board Member Preble, vote yes. School Board Member LaFortune?
Yes.
School Board Member Gale?
Yes.
School Board Member Truman?
Yes.
School Board Member Johnston?
Yes.
Motion passes 7-0. Thank you so much and have a great evening.